Prime Minister is confident despite moves to oust him. Media Council condemns attack on journalists.
It's an attack on press freedom in Papua New Guinea.
And PNG to face New Zealand in OFC Grand Final.
This is National MTV News with Miriba Tulo.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us for Friday's news. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has maintained his government will still be in power despite the opposition's move on the vote of no confidence. This follows calls made by the opposition to take the matter to court to recall Parliament in the next 5 weeks to carry out the vote of no confidence.
Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has brushed aside talk by the opposition to move the vote of no confidence. He said if the opposition wants to move the motion, they must present the numbers.
You can't change governments with 11 or 12 members of parliament. Doesn't matter how good you are.
The opposition yesterday announced they will seek a court order to recall Parliament. Leader Don Polier said Parliament must be recalled because there are pressing issues that needs to be addressed on the floor of Parliament. Two of these issues are the vote of no confidence and the shootings at UPNG.
We are filing an application before the Supreme Court to ask the Supreme Court to direct the Parliament to sit again immediately within the next 5 weeks.
However, the Prime Minister said Parliament will only be recalled if there is an emergency. He maintained the government will work with the administration of UPNG to see students resume classes next week.
We will continue to work with the university administration to save this semester and ensure that the academic year for 2016 is not cancelled. And we urge all parents to urge their students and their children to take heed of the advice of the university administration and, of course, get their kids back into classes.
Stanley Over Jr., National MTV News.
2 days after the standoff between UPNG students and police, Enga Governor Sir Peter Ipatas has reiterated his call for students to return to class. Governor Ipatas said students have made their intentions known and it is now before mandated leaders and relevant authorities to make their stance. The Enga Governor told MTV News the actions by students has caused the unnecessary looting and uprising in other parts of the country.
Calling on my students at all tertiary institutions to go to school.
The Enga Governor reiterated his call for Enga students in higher learning institutions to return to class following the shooting on Wednesday, which more than 20 students from UPNG were injured. This afternoon, the Enga Governor said students have petitioned the government and it is now the duty for mandated leaders to deliberate what course of actions to take.
They are not satisfied. The students have an opportunity in the next 9 months to solicit support to ensure that members of Parliament who they think have not acted in the best interest of the country are not returned to Parliament.
Governor Ipatas made a call to Engan students at UPNG and Unitec to have an open discussion with him this weekend.
Give me their views on why I should not support the Prime Minister. And obviously, I will also have an opportunity to explicitly explain to them why it is important for this country to have stability.
Ipatas also made a call to the public not to incite situations where government property can be vandalized. He condemned the lootings in Mount Hagen and Enga.
It is opportunists, criminal-minded people taking advantage of the situation.
The Engan governor expressed that for Enga alone, nearly 250 million kina has been invested for education and students should consider this investment. Jack Lopava Jr., National MTV News.
Apart from UPNG students, one of the victims of Wednesday's confrontation between the police and UPNG student protesters was a female journalist. Rose Amos, a radio journalist, was one of the first journalists on site during the confrontation who became a victim of police brutality. The Media Council of PNG says this is an attack on the media industry in the country.
It's an attack on press freedom in Papua New Guinea. And the police and the public, should appreciate the challenging roles that journalists have to operate in order to bring the news to Papua New Guineans.
Speaking to MTV yesterday following their media release, the president of the PNG Media Council says this attack, which comes a week after another female journalist, Imelda Wavik, was assaulted by policemen, will not be tolerated.
Rose actually ran towards the policeman for protection. Unfortunately, the policemen turned out to be hair attackers, but we must take off our hats too. There was a third, I think there was a fourth police officer who actually took Rose in and took her to a 10-seater. So that intervention in itself, saved her. So we would like to commend the fourth policeman, the senior police officer, for intervening. But the conduct of the other three officers to actually, assault her, punch her, kick her, was definitely uncalled for.
He says over the years he has seen an increasing trend of attacks on journalists in the country.
There was, and especially in connection to this current saga involving the case of the Prime Minister, there has been a lot of intimidation from different quarters, targeting reporters. So journalists have come under a lot of pressure to report without fear or favor. Now, using violence, definitely will have an impact on the content that comes out at the end of the day. And the council appeals to Papua New Guineans, to respect, journalists as and the profession and the industry for the task that we have in informing and educating Papua New Guineans.
Transparency International Chairman Lawrence Stevens says this attack on Ms. Amos should be condemned by everyone, especially those in the highest authority.
We are looking for people to shine torches into dark places. The journalists are the people we depend on to get the information across the country to 8 million people. And if police officers or anybody wants to intimidate them in their work, then we have to take a very strong position. And we need to hear political leaders saying this country will not tolerate attacks on journalists.
Today, Pacific Freedom Forum published a statement condemning the attacks both on the students and on the journalists. Rini says he hopes as part of the police investigations, Ms. Amos will be able to identify her attackers.
So once we need to let the process take its course, but we hope that at the end of the day, justice, is delivered for Rose and for all the other Papua New Guineans, including students who were shot at.
Meanwhile, NCD Central Police Commander Sylvester Kalau told MTV that they are fully aware of the attacks on the two journalists, which have been reported, and appropriate actions will be taken. He said they will provide a more detailed report on the progress of these reports next week. Sarah Aupong, National MTV News.
While attacks on journalists have raised security concerns for female journalists in the country, PNG Media Council President Alexander Rini says he has seen an improvement by media houses to provide security to their female staff. However, security challenges still remain.
I am aware of media organizations who've actually gone out of their way to provide secure quarters for their female staff, to ensure that their female staff get dropped off first before the male staff. So that's been happening in response to that unfortunate incident some 2 years ago. So I have no doubts whatsoever that media organizations are going out of their way to provide protection for their female staff. I think one of the challenges for female journalists in Papua New Guinea is a lot of the attacks are random, and you don't actually prepare for them; they just happened. So it can become it basically puts you on the spot, and it becomes a question of survival.
The injured students who were taken to Port Moresby General Hospital on Wednesday are still undergoing treatment. Port Moresby General Hospital Chief Executive Officer Grant Muddle issued a statement today. He said 3 UPNG students recovering from gunshot wounds are in the surgical intensive care unit. Mr. Muddle stressed that there are no deaths from Wednesday shootings and called on the media to verify facts before publishing information. 2 days after the unrest, normalcy has finally returned to Mount Hagen City. Businesses have opened their doors. However, the damage caused is extensive, and those affected are condemning the actions of Hagen Park secondary students who instigated the unrest on Wednesday afternoon. Schools in the city have been suspended since yesterday. One victim of the unrest is the brand new National Development Bank Highlands headquarters in the city. The 9 million kina building, which is less than 6 months old, has extensive damage that will cost thousands of kina to repair. Michelle Amber reports from Mount Hagen.
Mount Hagen City was business as usual. Talks about Wednesday's unrest still the topic of discussion, but most business houses opened for business. Members of the Mount Hagen Mobile Squad were out in full, keeping an eye out for possible disturbances. Those that suffered the most after the incident on Wednesday includes the Mount Hagen Courthouse, Bank South Pacific, the famous AGC building, and the brand new National Development Bank. Though responses from other organizations could not be obtained, the regional manager for NDB was one frustrated man when asked to comment on the damage. He condemned the actions of the students, saying all bills for the repair of the damage will be met by the secondary school responsible.
Compared this building to the rest of these buildings here in Mount Hagen, you can look at also plenty of taka box work come up in Jalo City here. This city used to be a good city, but now you look at plenty of Kenyan building come up Loyena. The NDB, Kirabim is a name long, Hagen come back. Not only for Hagen, but for the region. Now, I'm been costing 9 million kina long government, put him this building up. I'm all you can look at also more, Sumatin long Hagen Park High School all been come on Bagaram this bank. Now, time you look at more Sumatin, I'm all plenty of Papa Mam Law, like some loan law this bank. Working more legal business. This bank, even is a target more big lenders all. I'm rural communities all, unbanked people and banks are giving loan. Cost us some good big money. Like me, all this building, and 9 million kina, so it will cost us some good money to put up the infrastructure up again. So that billion, I mean, but I talk to the management, the properties, but Hagen Park is to meet that one. Why staff, headmaster, gate security, all the Larem or Pinin comes to me again. Me look at also all stoning BSP or Narla business house all stoning, but me blame worst one. Why target them NDB?
Mr. Owa said this sort of behavior is not acceptable and has caused the bank a lot of loss during this time. NDB's People's Microbank service has not been in operation since yesterday. He is calling on the Provincial Education Board to consider relocating Hagen Park Secondary School.
And we cannot expect such things to happen. And our city is devolving now. This is a big icon building. Couple house is coming up, and 1 or 2, 3 buildings they're coming up. People can look in. And Hagen town is, our city is changing. And having to have a school in the center of the city is not good. It would be bad if suppose all gone, stone him this a Nubla couple house too. They must move the school out of Hagen City.
Meanwhile, people on the streets of Mount Hagen are still suffering from Wednesday's ordeal due to some businesses closing their doors yesterday and today.
4 days all kita mipla no market all Toknogat market all Western Islands Toknogat market all Southern Islands. Osem so mipla stabla house na mipla nogat keke mipla stabla house. Plenty all belongings lo mipla em loose finish.
Am lile coins lo mi also selling the post office and mis eximna. Migim logen I'm witness this problem. I'm also students all unrest all been migim logen the post office closed now. Right now I'm stranded legally na mis stop minus post office boben and nogat. Osem the mis sanabiet na.
All relevant authorities, including police, the provincial government, the city authority, and Chamber of Commerce, will be meeting next Monday regarding the unrest. Michelle Amber, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
2 students from Hagen Park Secondary were arrested on Wednesday and are still in police custody after a riot started by students and the public escalated. School principal Tony Buldung told MTV News that the public have blamed students for damages to buildings in the city, but the principal is adamant it was the work of opportunists. Meanwhile, PPC Western Highlands Chief Superintendent Martin Lakari also confirmed the incident and the arrests.
Mr. Buldung told MTV News that on Wednesday, students were sent home at around 2 p.m. He said at that instance, the public was already frustrated at pictures that they saw on social media about the confrontation between the police and the UPNG students and were looking for ways to release their frustration. When the public saw Hagen Park students going out of the school gate, Buldung said they joined the students by throwing stones, targeting government offices. These include the police station, courthouse and other government buildings. Buldung also said that yesterday some property owners confronted him, intending to disturb the Grade 10 National Written Express and Exam, but he managed to send them away. The Western Highlands Provincial Education Board has suspended classes for Thursday and Friday, and students will return to classes next Tuesday. Meanwhile, the Mount Hagen National Court has been suspended for an indefinite time since yesterday after it was badly damaged. The Mount Hagen PPC, Martin Lakari, confirmed that Hagen is back to normal and there is heavy police presence on the ground. Vasinata Yama, National MTV News.
You're watching National MTV News. Among stories after the break, a fatal attack on fishermen in Manus, the appointment of an acting director for the Cultural Commission, and the amazing story of a boy surviving without arms. Stay with us. Welcome back to National MTV News. Manus police have reported one person dead and another seriously injured in a recent brutal attack in one of the outer islands in Manus. The incident happened on Wednesday this week, where about 4 fishermen from Park Island were forced to seek refuge on Tong Island due to bad weather. The 4 fishermen were confronted by 8 men armed with bush knives who began chopping at 2 of the fishermen indiscriminately. One of the men died due to loss of blood, while the other was ferried on a boat and admitted at the Lorengau General Hospital. Manus Acting Provincial Police Commander, Senior Inspector David Yapu, said Lorengau Police have been deployed on boats to Tong and Nauna Islands to investigate and arrest the suspects. Mr. Yapu said the cause of the attack is yet to be established. The National Cultural Commission has a new acting executive director. The appointment of Casper Damien has been gazetted, and the announcement was made today by the Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture, Tobias Kulang. Former Executive Director, Dr. Jacob Simet, thanked the Minister for finally putting the matter to rest.
In just his second month in office as Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture, and Tobias Kulang is seen to be putting agencies under his portfolio in order. The issue of the position of the Executive Director of the National Cultural Commission has been ongoing until today's announcement of the acting appointment of Casper Damien.
Okay, Casper is a member of the staff within NCC, National Cultural Commission, who is working in PNG studies, which is a part of National Cultural Commission. So I've decided to revoke the appointment of that was done by my predecessor.
The appointment of Colin Timebari by former Minister Justin Tachenko was revoked. Former Executive Director Dr. Jacob Simet said his last contract lapsed in 2011 and he has been in the acting position for the past 5 years.
I was engaged actually when I was in Hawaii. I had a job in Hawaii. I was asked by the government to come in and put together the National Cultural Commission, which I did in a period of 3 months. After 3 months, I was told, now you have to run it. And after you run it, you go back to Hawaii. But I never did. So I've been running it for the last 23 years.
Mr. Damien thanked Dr. Simet for his immense work in the NCC and acknowledged his wealth of experience and knowledge.
And I'd like to say that I will carry on from where he left. And I will always come back to seek his advice because he's the most experienced person in the field, institution. So always come back and ask for his advice also. And thank you, Minister, for the announcement and your trust in me for taking over this institution. And I will serve this institution to the best of my ability.
Minister Kulang said the NCC would maintain the services of Dr. Simet in other avenues. Mr. Damien will restart the process of appointment and re-advertise for the position of a permanent executive director for the NCC. Deli Waigeno, National EMTV News.
The member for Jimmy, Mai Dop, this week in Parliament asked what had become of the National Housing Project at the Duran Farm in the nation's capital. Mr. Dop said it's a sad state seeing not even one house built yet at the Duran Farm and the ever-growing squatter settlements in Port Moresby and Ley cities.
The member for Jimmy, Mai Dop, said when this government came into office 4 years ago, it made a commitment to start the program to address this chronic housing issue. With just 10 months away from the next national election and not a single house built under this program to date, Mr. Dop asked if the project has been abandoned.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, my questions are: 1. What has become of the massive housing project at the Duran Farm just outside the city? After millions of kina have been allocated at the National Housing Corporation, not a single house has been built.
In the absence of the Minister for Housing, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill confirmed that the government has tried to make interventions where housing is a big issue in urban centers around the country.
In respect to Duran Farm, yes, we are also equally disappointed that after spending money there to develop the blocks, put in roads in there, put in power and water, I understand, into those blocks, we have yet to build a single house. Mr. Speaker, parts of that has been related to titles, individual titles under the subdivision, not been made available quickly. But from the briefings that I'm getting, Mr. Speaker, there is almost, I think, over 1,000 blocks already been issued now. And now they're talking to Papua New Guineans and also developers in trying to develop that house.
The Prime Minister said he would get the Minister for Housing to submit a detailed report to Parliament. Deli Waigeno, National EMTV News.
Now, it's not every day that you hear stories of people living with special needs. While most of them have been subjected to harassment and ridicule, others have untold success stories. In this story, our Kokopo-based journalist Edwin Fidelis tells the story of 10-year-old David Ezra, who was born without arms. And since his early childhood, David has dedicated his 2 feet to do what an able-bodied person can do.
It's 10 a.m. in the morning and I've come to the home of David Ezra and his family at Nangananga village on the outskirts of Kokopo town. David was born without arms and for the last 7 years he's been using his 2 feet to do most of the things children at his age do. Since his early childhood, he has been taught by his family members to master the skills of how to use his feet, and after almost countless days of practices, this is what David can do.
Em bin baby, mito plalo kautim ekam inapem school, mito plapain something where mito plat luki mo by hat long em tasol, ino hat long em walking or something where isi tasol long
David's chances of using prosthetic arms may be over. Apart from walking, he uses feet to draw, write his name, eat, pour himself a glass of water, and move objects from one place to another.
I've been carrying them, Ness been talking me or saying baby blow you, and born without arm. So, because something we've been walking, we've been crying.
David is in grade 1 and like any other able-bodied children, he has higher hopes, and that is to complete his education and live a happy, normal life. David was born with a rare health condition that left him armless. According to health explanations, he has suffered from a old-Oram syndrome, a syndrome that affects the skeletal development of his arms during his mother's pregnancy. It's a birth defect that happens in 1 out of every 1,000 childbirths all over the world. David was camera shy when I asked him how he copes with his friends in school, but his mother said he's been behaving well and has so far been treated fairly by his schoolmates, regardless of him being armless. His mother told me he doesn't have a public profile, but wherever he goes, he has become an inspiration to many men, women and children not to take their abilities for granted. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Kokopo.
And now a look at the finance news. The kina opened unchanged at 0.3160 US dollars in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying 0.3085 US dollars, 0.4121 Australian dollars, 0.2696 euro, and 32.78 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold and coffee closed lower, while cocoa and copper closed the day higher. Palm oil closed higher, while crude oil and copper closed the day lower. And on the stock markets, the Dow Jones closed at 66 points lower, the ASX closed 53 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed 50 points lower. National EMTV News continues after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to National EMTV News. Lae Metropolitan Commander Chief Superintendent Anthony Wagambi has warned students of Bugandi Secondary School to stop fighting or face the consequences. Wagambi said he will ensure that those students caught fighting will be arrested, charged and tried in the open court. The warning comes after a fight broke out at the school yesterday afternoon.
Yesterday, the clash broke out onto the main road, disturbing the flow of traffic. Both sides of the road were blocked while the fighting went on. Police responded and dispersed the students. And then again, another fight broke out this morning. Police had liaised with the school's administration to find out the cause of the fight and the ringleaders. Police have apprehended more than 30 male students and are now in police custody. Bugandi students have been involved in a number of classes in the recent weeks, and this needs to stop. Bugandi has been one of several schools in Lae that have built up a culture of violent school fights. Some have resulted in serious injury and death. Police are willing to work closely with the school to address this ongoing issue of school fights. The Lae Metropolitan Commander is calling on parents and guardians to take control of their children and ensure that they understand the reasons they are in school. Wagambi wants if students are caught fighting, they will be arrested and charged. He had also instructed his officers to find legal avenues to lay charges if they are minors. Mata Luis, National EMTV News, Lae.
Lae City Manager Roy Kamen said street vending activities and petty crimes are on the rise in Lae after funds for the security program were exhausted. 500,000 kina allocated by the Morobe provincial government last year after a protest by Morobe youth were exhausted at the end of March this year. The fund was used to employ 40 youths in Lae City as well as surrounding settlements as enforcement officers.
The protesters demanded the provincial government to crack down on street vendors who were named as major contributors to the rise in petty crimes in Lae. In response, the Morobe provincial government created short and long-term measures to address the problem. As part of its long-term plan, 500,000 kina was allocated to engage youths to control street selling and other petty crimes.
For us to engage youths in the city and in the surrounding settlements to try and control the rise of street selling and all this pickpocketing in the city.
The Lae and local level government cannot continue the program as it was not included in this year's provincial budget. The funds allocated last year had already been used. And as a result, the 40 additional youths who were employed were laid off again, resulting in an increase in street vending and petty crimes being committed. Kamen says it is a commitment made by the provincial government in its short and long-term plans last year. However, it failed to include it in this year's provincial budget.
For the long-term planning, they should have included this program in this year's budget so that it will be an ongoing activity that will be ongoing throughout this year and then maybe through next year. But because they failed to include this in the budget, we are now facing this problem.
The Lae and local level government laws on trading in public stated that it is an offense to sell goods that are considered to be below the minimum quality standards. The law also prohibits the sale of items outside or allocated marketplaces within the city of Lae. Part 4 of the Informal Sector and Development Control Act of 2013 in public place states that any trader other than the holder of the license who conducts businesses or provides services without license is guilty of an offense. It is also against the local level government's law to sell in front of public bus stops and footpaths, causing inconvenience to commuters and pedestrians. Mata Lubis, National EMTV News, Ley.
Trukai Sports is next. The public gets behind PNG for tomorrow's big game against New Zealand in the grand final of the OFC Nations Cup. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin with football, and Papua New Guinea have created history by reaching the final of the OFC Nations Cup and will face heavy favourites New Zealand tomorrow. Papua New Guinea captain David Mutta has said that his side is confident and happy with the home support, whilst New Zealand coach Anthony Hodgson says that the departure of captain Chris Wood is no loss to his side.
New Zealand head coach Anthony Hodgson has remained adamant that despite Wood's departure, the All Whites remain mentally strong and prepared for tomorrow's showdown.
I know we're fresh. I think in a final, on a game like this, I think all that is irrelevant. All we can do is turn up the best prepared we can, and we are. We're in good condition. I don't know how we relate to Papua New Guinea.
Standing captain Rory Fallon, a veteran campaigner for New Zealand, also maintained that his side has enough quality and experience to see them through to success against a PNG side that had been riding on a wave of patriotic support.
Obviously we have McGlinchey that never played, but they were part of it. There were people that have been a part of that team. But we're putting that to one side, Honiara and all that, and we want to kind of forget Honiara. We want to put that to one side, and we want to focus on this game on Saturday. It's a big game for both teams.
For Papua New Guinea, the chance to create history yet again has now become a reality, with PNG captain David Mutta seemingly overwhelmed at the support that fellow Papua New Guineans have shown toward the cause.
I think we have to work hard a lot in the attacking and defending, because only the team that work really hard will get the result.
A more level-headed approach, however, was presented by PNG national team coach Flemin Siretslev, who was more impressed with the commitment of his players.
More skillful players, we've had in Denmark players on absolutely world top level, but I've never had a squad so committed to what they want to achieve as with those guys here in PND. There are never any complaints about anything. They are just doing their best every time we're on the pitch. So for me, it has been luxury to work with this team.
Both New Zealand and Papua New Guinea camps have stated that their players are well and rested and fully determined to win tomorrow's showpiece event. Jeremy Moggy, National EMTV Sports.
The PNG couples take on the might of the New Zealand All Whites in a highly anticipated match. The Oceania Football Confederation's Nations Cup Grand Final will be played tomorrow afternoon. PNG edged out island neighbours, the Solomon Islands, 2-1 in Wednesday's semi-final to book their spot in this final. EMTV Sports took to the streets to gather the public's view ahead of tomorrow's match.
Papua New Guinea will play off for a chance to be crowned OFC champions tomorrow and book a spot in the Confederations Cup against winners from throughout the globe in 2017. They will take on New Zealand, who are so far undefeated with just one draw with Solomon Islands in their pool matches. In what is expected to be a crowded house at the Sir John Guy Stadium for tomorrow's final, the general public is urging the national football team to go all the way.
Meeting us all about win tomorrow.
Mate, I'm so proud that PNG is making to the final, so maybe as a Papua New Guinean, I must go and put my support in my team.
Our striker, number 18, he's too greedy. He must give him style blow, number 7, and other players. So all 10 people have to play, not only one person.
Me like wishing my team PNG, after 43 years, good luck in their soccer game tomorrow.
My appeal to all the citizens, please make a way to St. John Guy Stadium and put your support.
Or making finals, and that's very, as a Papua New Guinea, me, I'm a mass.
This is the best that we've been waiting for. Soccer has been down the drain, and now it's picking up with this new coach coming in. #1 team, and we are looking forward for the first. So, and they will reach Russia 2017. Yes, they will make it.
Last time I watched a game, LOL, won the SI. Against SI, me one bell of performance, LOL. I scored all good goals.
Thank you, Samuel PNG, Grand Finals. Me start Samuel win. The finals, lol. Na Samuel bang ticket finish. Me play ready logo watch.
All the best. It's all by game best, LOL, country, LOL. Home ground too, so we're making crowd proud.
I will be there and support. This is the history making, and it's a history. Go for it.
In the last OFC Nations Cup, PNG ended their campaign at the bottom of their pool without reaching the finals. But this time around, PNG surprised the competition, ending a 43-year drought to make the grand final.
Put Papua New Guinea 2-1 up.
Dion Kombang, National MTV Sports.
And Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture, Tobias Kulang, has praised the PNG national soccer team, the couples, for their semi-final win in the OFC Cup against Solomon Islands. Minister Kulang said the win gave a huge psychological boost to a nation that is currently going through a lot of difficulty.
We would like to congratulate the PNG couples, our soccer team for a milestone achievement in entering semi-finals, in the finals in the Oceania this Saturday. So once again, sports tourism and tourism, as I said, our branding, our image is dependent externally, So this kind of statement, the fact that this game is going to play in this country, and the fact that our boys are getting up there, also is a confidence booster for our country, and it will go a long way in promoting tourism and the people's desirability to choose this place as a destination. So we congratulate them on this milestone achievement, and we wish them all the best.
Sports Minister Justin Chechenko, in a media conference, said construction work on FIFA venues is progressing well. He also congratulated the PNG men's national team on making the finals of the OFC Nations Cup after 43 years.
Nearing the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup, and Minister for Sports Justin Chechenko highlighted today that all FIFA venues will be of international certified standards to meet FIFA requirements.
The facilities are to their international certified standards, which is Bassini Parade, which is Sajongai Stadium here, the 2 new mini stadiums, which is also the other 15 ovals that are being upgraded throughout all the different schools in Port Moresby, and of course ensuring that all our facilities are to the standard that FIFA require.
With the team tasked to accomplish that, doing all they can to make the deadline. FIFA delegates are currently in the country to sort out logistics of the game before November, and Minister Chechenko said his team will sit down and make sure all requirements are fully met.
We have all the FIFA delegates here that are in charge of these particular issues, and we look forward in working with them and sitting with them and ensuring that all their criteria and their requirements are fulfilled to their full satisfaction.
In light of the OFC Nations Cup, PNG has proven that the world game is as big here in the country as rugby league is, and their performance is of a class that has earned them a spot in the finals.
In an historical moment that now allows us to play New Zealand in the grand final this Saturday. And I appeal and encourage all Papua New Guineans in Port Moresby that support football, or whether you support football or not, to come to the game on Saturday and watch Papua New Guinea play New Zealand in the grand final of the OFC competition.
The minister has congratulated the couples for making the final of the OFC Nations Cup and making history after 43 years. With the current political issue at hand, Mr. Tichenko said his team with PNG Sports Foundation has been liaising with police to provide security during the game, and fans should come out and support the PNG men's team. On Grand Final day this weekend between New Zealand and host nation Papua New Guinea, the Minister for Sports, Justin Tichenko, has reassured that police presence here at the Sir John Guy Stadium will double to ensure that public safety is of utmost priority before, during and after the games. Shane Saroya, National, MTV Sports.
And MTV will telecast the OFC Grand Final match between PNG and New Zealand at 4 p.m. tomorrow. Sports Foundation CEO Peter Chiamalili Jr. also announced at a news conference that 2 mini-football stadiums along with 15 ovals, which will be used during the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup, are currently under construction.
With the 2 mini stadiums, the PNG Stadium, football stadium, which is next to the Sir John Guy Stadium, and the Bava Stadium, which is over at the Bicini Parade, you will start to see a bit more progress in terms of the laying of the foundation. So by next week, you'll start to see the footing go through, which is the cement, which is the foundation for the seats to go on. And by the end of the next 2 weeks, actually, you'll start to see grass being grown in the different fields around NCDC. As we speak, we've got our technical staff in China right now looking at the seatings that are going to be placed. They're actually pretty much completed. They are about to be put into containers. Before they get into the containers, we are there just to make sure that they meet the specs before they put in the containers and be shipped.
And Trukai Sports continues after the break. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. The National Athletics Championships is on again, this time attracting more teams than in previous years. Secretary General for Athletics PNG, Philip Redder, says the PNG Athletics Union continues to seek more support from the local business community to boost its events. Up to 20 provincial teams and local clubs are taking part in this year's championships.
Up to 11 provincial teams have arrived to participate in another national sporting event at Laes Ignatius Kilage Stadium. The 55th National Athletics Championships is being held in Lae for the next 3 days. Secretary General Philip Redder says Athletics PNG is looking at adding a few more athletes selected from this national championship for the Melanesian Championships in Fiji next month.
So there are several athletes that will be also running for selection. We have another event in Fiji in July, which is the Melanesian Championships, Athletic Championships. So we have already announced a squad, but after this weekend, we may look at a number or 2 or 3 athletes added onto the squad, and so it's an opportunity for them to show what they can do at this particular event this year. So
events for today begin in the afternoon with the 800-meter races for all registered teams. Toya Whistle is the highlight of the championships as she continues to prepare for her spot in the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio.
Toya Whistle, she has arrived. She arrived yesterday with her coach from Brisbane, where she's based. She's training for the Olympic Games, so coming here is not for her to sort of compete to qualify. It just means she comes to run and take part in the national championships, because this is our biggest event on our national local calendar, the national event, and for someone like Toya to be part of is important. The profile of the event is raised. So she will be running 100 meters tomorrow on Saturday about 9:30, 10 a.m. But having her run with the other local athletes, I think, is more important from that aspect, that the motivation.
The sporting event also provides an avenue of opportunity for athletes to showcase local sporting talents for other upcoming national sports events. Colin Barilai, National MTV Sports, Lae.
2 sports development managers were in the country this week to provide an insight into gymnastics. Brooke Nebush and Karen Norden ended a successful 2-day gymnastics program for young children up to the age of 12. PNG is the 6th country in the Oceania region to be a part of the newly introduced program among 5 other Pacific Island nations, which include Fiji and American Samoa. Godwin Eki reports.
Only introduced this month, Gymnastics Australia rolled out a 2-day gymnastics program for children as young as 1 to 12-year-olds. The program was free and open to all interested parents to bring along their children. The program itself was funded by the International Gymnastics Federation to grow gymnastics in the Oceania region. Participation in Sports Development Manager Karen Norden said in the last 18 months, Gymnastics Australia have visited countries in the Pacific to establish the gymnastics program.
The benefits are really important for concentration, for reading and writing. The benefits of gymnastics can really assist with all those types of things with a school student.
She said one of the priorities now for the future of gymnastics in Papua New Guinea is to establish a national federation, establish clubs and sustainability in the country with the aim of extending and introducing gymnastics into schools.
And we're coaching some of their sports medicine students on how to teach gymnastics. So our aim is to try and teach as many people as possible to teach gymnastics in Papua New Guinea so it can continue on without just having us come into town.
So far, Fiji, Guam, American Samoa and Cook Island have been engaged in the program, with more focus now given to Papua New Guinea, Samoa and Tonga this year. Australian government has also shown their support in funding the development of gymnastics program in Oceania. Godwin Aki, National MTV Sports.
And Trukai Sports ends on that note. When we come back, the weather details for the next 24 hours.
Trukai Sports.
A look at the weather for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Port Moresby, Daru, Kerma, mostly fine. A shower or two in Popondetta. To the Momasa region, a shower or two expected all across the region. To the New Guinea Islands, a shower or two in Lorengau and Kavieng, showers in Kokopo and Rabaul as well as in Kimbe, a shower or two in Buka. And in the Highlands region, all major centers to expect some showers with morning fog. And that's been the news, sports and weather for today. From the MTV News team, have a pleasant weekend. Good night.